here in Color Chats with Moira. I've got the most incredible, all the way from Ireland, Ray McKimm. Hello, darling. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Moira Bush, and welcome from the Emerald Isle.
From the Emerald Isle. Oh my goodness, your accent. You were saying before we went live how amazing it is to speak to somebody again, because you forget the accents and the nuances.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
not
so
too many emails. I'm loving the connection with you.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, I'm going to do a little technical thing here, Ray, and just check that we are live. Okay, there we go. We're live, so I can actually show you. I've got us there on the iPad, so we're definitely live.
Okay.
All right, let's have a look and make sure that I've got anyone's comments. Okay, Philippa's on. Hello, Philippa. How fantastic you're with us. That's lovely, getting lots of hearts there. I always just check that we can be heard and seen and everything's good.
Okay.
So Philippa's from England, and Tracy Dudley, she's from South Africa.
I've met her. I know her too.
That's amazing. All right, fabulous. I'm so glad you're coming on. Hello, Moira and Ray, says Philippa. Great. So we are live. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do a quick share to the group, just to let them know what is on the agenda for today for a pick of number 1, 2, or 3. So let's bring on the camera and let's hope it works this time. There we go, guys. Right, so today, 1, 2, or 3, it is a color mirrors card. This is a deck that I created way back in 2010. That's all before all the 2012 stuff happened. So it was a good time to create a new energy deck, and it encompasses the whole of the color mirror system. So feel which one you are drawn to, 1, 2, or 3, and then I'd like you to please pop it into the comments box, and please also remember to share the show as we go along on your groups and your Facebook pages. So whichever one you're drawn to, pop it in. At the end, Ray and I are going to give you a little chat about the color that you have chosen, the color card. All right, great. So let's get back to us here. Fabulous. Let's see. Oh, hang on. Sorry, Ray. Patricia, Melissa, and also me. Melissy's on. Hi, Melissa.
Hello, dear.
Leslie Ann is on. Lisa Barry, Diane Ramsey, Arthur. Hello, Diane. Oh, I love Diane. Lynn Hope Thomas is on, also from the UK, a friend of Color Mirrors. Yvonne Volo's on, probably babysitting her numerous grandchildren while she's doing this. She's very brave, doing multitasking. Aren't we living in extraordinary times, Ray?
Absolutely.
I've got people that are saying to me they were never educated on how to educate their children. The school systems took care of that, and so now this multitasking they're doing is wearing them out. They're absolutely exhausted.
I certainly see that in my work. The people that are coming along to see me, and also what it seems to have happened is with the external pressures and the anxiety about COVID, etc. If something's been underlying and something's been pushed down, whoa, it's coming up. And we're dealing with a lot of historical stuff in therapy at the moment.
Oh, historical stuff like crazy. I know. Oh my goodness. Sorry, hang on. Little Cody here. Sorry, Ray. You haven't met this little member of our family. He's the size of a squirrel. And whenever he hears somebody he really likes, he wants to be close.
Oh, good. Well, he looks lovely. He looks lovely.
That's your voice. He had to be up here, not in his box down there. Sorry about that. So what we're going to do is just talk a little bit about color mirrors. And every week I feature 2 specific bottles in the system. And this week we're going to be featuring Venus and a dragon bottle. So I'm going to just pop over to the slides. And Ray, I'd love it if you could just share a little bit about your experience with these particular bottles as well. So let's go into a little keynote play thingy there. So it is the Venus pink bottle. Mm-hmm. And I've got a little image of the Venus planet behind there, which of course, it's quite a murky looking, dense atmospheric planet. Yeah. I wonder if that represents the whole female side of Venus, that women can be a bit dense.
Well, I see it as certainly very much. I'm not good with, Venus bottle and the messages, as I was saying to you before, because it's really the color in all of this that gets me terribly excited, that I find it as a communication tool. And so this is talking about femininity. So if I draw out of my understanding of therapy and Jungian analysis, I want to talk about the anima. I want to talk about that femininity that's in everyone, male and female. And what are we doing with it? How are we expressing it? How are we suppressing it? And certainly that's a conversation I would see coming when I would see this bottle come along.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, let's just share a little bit about what Melissa says in the messages with this bottle. She says that pink relates to joy in relationships. And I'm also just thinking, how this whole lockdown has got us, which is really the topic of the moment, is this lockdowns where we're in another one here in Canada, and they're extending it, and they stay at home orders and all sorts of the weird stuff going on. And, and I think couples are being forced to face their relationship square on and check in, am I really happy with you or not? And what's missing and what can change. I think that is just a recipe that's been triggered in that whole awakening here in 2020.
Yeah.
And then of course pink is romance, and not much romance going on. You can't go to nice restaurants. You've got to make romance in your backyard, on your balcony if you live in big condos like they do here in Canada.
And also about looking in at yourself. I mean, at these times we're spending so much more time with ourselves. So that busyness that we would have used to move on from that or move away from that, that's not available to us. So we're spending so much more time with us, and certainly thinking as a male looking at this, or males looking at this, thinking, well, how do I understand my feminine side? How do I understand my emotions from that perspective? It's something that people are most definitely being drawn back to at this time.
Because I mean, we always think about pink as the female and not the male color. Boys are blue and girls are pink.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how you're in your blue and I'm in my pink, by the way. Not planned, but here we are.
I'm in blue because I'm a talker. I'm Irish. What else would I be?
Oh, right. Yeah. And then, of course, what I have found is this is sometimes chosen, or most often chosen, people who've got mother or mothering issues going on. And it also mirrors a pattern of not enough on the inside and therefore not enough on the outside. So I think if people were having a pink experience right now, that could be some of the stuff that's coming up. Can you add to that? You kind of where you're at with this pink energy?
Certainly, to go back to the previous point I made, that at this time people are looking in, they're trying to understand, not so much particularly from the male point of view in pink and femininity and our feminine side. It's not so much what we can do and what we can achieve and what we go out and the hunter-gatherer thing, because a lot of that's closed down. But it is looking at that emotional response to what's going on around us, seeing huge numbers of people die, people becoming ill, losing people, lack of opportunity. And so as we look inside ourselves, looking at our emotional response to that, and pulling away from what we can do to fix and just stopping still for a little while. How do I feel? What are my emotions like? And I really encourage males to kind of engage with the pink, because it is asking those questions that may be diverted from at other times.
Yeah. And like you said, there's nowhere to run and hide.
Yeah.
Previously, you can get in your car and go somewhere or disappear. You can't go anywhere. You have to, whatever emotions are coming up, you have to face them and deal with them square on. And pink is such a good color to do that. I think a lot of people have gone into getting pets. I mean, there isn't a pet to be had in an animal shelter here in Canada. So they've gone, well, if I've got no one to love, I'm going to get a pet to love. Yeah. Do you have a pet, Ray?
I do. I have three dogs. No, there's no cliches in our house. So we have got Burton, Ernie, and Elmo. So, so yeah, they're all three little mixes between Jack Russells and pugs, and very cuddly. So they really stop me. I'm a busy person. I like to be busy, and it's the pups coming up on my lap that sit me down and make me take time, and I value that.
I completely agree, because that's what little Cody does with me. Is I could sit for hours composing and writing and designing and being in a creative zone on my laptop, and then 5 hours later I haven't moved. I haven't had to stop for lunch. I haven't walked. I haven't gone to the bathroom. And the dog, every hour, he stops me. He goes, "Excuse me, we have to do something."
Yeah.
He's been a very good nurturing tool for me as well. The
Yeah.
other bottle I wanted to chat about was the Red Dragon. So we were featuring the Red Dragon. It's kind of got this red glittery shininess in this clear bottle. And this is a dragon about compassion. And it's so funny how red is such a fiery go, go, go energy. And then suddenly this is a dragon that says, "No, hold on a minute. This is about softened energy. This is compassion. It connects you with empathy." What I love about the messages that Melissa puts out about this bottle is that it reminds you that that when you do the act of forgiveness, you somehow get back into your power. And the other thing it teaches, of course, is that you love it right rather than fight it right. And that from Melissa, that's a constant teaching with her. She reminds you every workshop, every connection we have with her. She always goes, "You've got to love it right. You can't fight it right."
Absolutely.
And this is sometimes chosen, I found in my practice, when people are exhausted with their angry feelings, they can't hold on to them anymore. It's actually made them so tired that they know that they can't even bring up an angry feeling anymore, if that makes sense. There's just they've gone into that overwhelm. And then, I've been with color mirrors 18 years now, and I've been fascinated by the thread that comes, when people pick a bottle, the same bottle, and they have the same kind of story going on in their lives. And so often it's been by mothers who say, "How do I help my teenagers? They've gone gothic. They've painted their bedrooms black. They've pierced themselves. They're doing tattoos. They've locked their doors. They don't talk to us anymore." And then I always say, "Well, we'll pick a bottle that will help you." And they go and pick up this bottle of compassion. So that's my experience in it. So I'd love it if you can let me know.
I just love the synchronicity that happens in color mirrors. It just happens, like crossing over. And so the pairing today, from my point of view, is the most perfect pairing, because a moment ago I'm talking to you about the feminine energy, the anima, and then suddenly we're straight into the red, which for me represents the animus, which is the male energy. And the interesting point is, from a psychoanalytic point of view, when we're looking at, what we would call individuation, it's like coming home to yourself. It's really coming into balance. Jung would have said that when we get to the stage where we are looking at the balance of the anima and the animus, we are really close. And so if I had a client coming along and picking the pink and the red, I go, wow, we've got someone here who's done a lot of work. They've been through a lot of experiences, and they really are at that verge of really coming home to themselves. So that balance of the anima, the female, and the animus, the male energy, is such a really interesting conversation to have. And it's so reflective on where a person is at their journey. I love this.
And even in astrology, because Mars is your masculine planet, which is red, the red dragon, and Venus is your feminine planet. So it definitely is that.
Yeah, and it's that, and we have it. So we need to get out of the conversation of this is the woman thing and the man thing. In all of us, there's the feminine and the masculine, and it's about keeping that in balance all of the time. And when that comes to work in synergy, that's when we really begin to see that we're on that last straight and we're coming home to ourselves,
Yeah, I love that, because when I find people are out of balance, the male and females out of balance, if they're too much into the female side, they've become very complacent, especially when it comes to being in business. And they don't like to handle money. They don't like to do marketing, advertising. They don't energetically or take any kind of action to be visible and make themselves found. They want to, I want to serve, I want to heal, I want to be a service, but they only talk it. They don't actually do anything about it. So I find when you give them the advice, connect to your masculine energy, that energy that is the one that's goal orientated, that is about taking action, making things happen, and bring that into your feminine energy. Find that balance, you're going to have a much more successful practice, I think.
Yeah. And I think in my work in politics, which we'll get to in a moment, I really see a transition globally from the red to the pink. Oh, absolutely. And we've got these wonderful, glorious people like Jacinda Ardern and or Icelandic Prime Minister and Finnish. We've seen great figures in North America. And we are moving to a different form of politics. And I even find it on the ground when I'm having to deal with maybe someone with a terrorist background to try and quieten down some potential trouble, I appeal immediately to the pink in them. I appeal to that emotional side of them rather than coming in with the facts and the strategy. And it always breaks ground in a different way, you know.
Well, for those who don't know you, Ray, can you tell us how you came across color mirrors? How did your, I mean, you're a psychotherapist, you've done a lot of research and study, and how did you come across this fluffy spiritual system?
I was duped. And I don't know if Karani's listening to this, but I have to tell her that she's the most gloriously patient, kind, gentle person in the world. And I was duped. I was told earlier in the year that by a friend, and I'd done some work. I used to work for the World Health Organization and the relationship between built environment and health and well-being. I'd gone on and studied some other psychology of color because that was really evident in the built space and the shared spaces. And she rang me and she said, oh, saw this other course and it's about using color as a therapeutic tool. And I'm like, oh, brilliant. Booked me in. She booked me in. I sent her some money. I flew over to England. We were sitting the night before in the little B&B and she said to me, can I ask you something? And I said, yeah. She said, you know that thing you do when people mention angels? And I went, yes. And she said, don't do it tomorrow. And I said, oh no. I said, tell me that this isn't woo-woo tomorrow, you know? And she said, well, it kind of is. And I deliberately didn't tell you because I knew you should come. And if I told you, you wouldn't come. So we went the next day into this room full of people. I mean, people were talking about vortexes and soul contracts. And I just thought, and there was this little lady full of joy, full of light. And every time there was an opportunity to say something, you can guess I was talking. And I go, really? I mean, what are you talking about? And got to mid-morning break and I went outside and stood at the furthest point of the garden smoking, thinking, I'm not going back in. If I had my car keys, I'd just go home. That woman's absolutely mad. And then I just had this experience where I knew I had to go back in. So I went back in and what they were doing, there was somebody lying on a couch and she said, oh, right, what had happened to this woman, but she was lying on a couch. And they said, right, we're going to put these bottles on her chakras. I didn't know the word. And I said, right. And she said to me, would you do it? And I went, okay. And I took the bottles and I put them on and she said, yeah, that's exactly where they go.
Wow.
I don't know. And I decided to open my heart and start to listen. And it was the generosity of spirit. It was the kindness. It was the light of this teacher that I thought, well, if that makes sense to her to be that, then I need to listen. And so I came back and I did more courses and I did more courses. And then I had the glorious experience of chatting with Melissa. And we got on like a house on fire. I mean, I don't know anything that she knows. And I'm forever ringing her and going, somebody said this today. What does that mean? And yet there is a spiritual connection that we've done this before. We have lived before. And I just love color mirrors. I just see it as a tool. I went on to write about it. I published some work in a university textbook about the science behind it. So actually, it wasn't woo-woo. It was actually science in different language that I was not familiar with. And I went on to write about the science behind it all.
Yeah, and we actually today, we just had a meeting with the teacher trainers, like the really hierarchy of trainers and teachers in color mirror system. We had a meeting, we have a quarterly meeting. And Professor Tadeja Jakulin from Slovenia came on, and she just had helped a student publish a paper on how color is therapeutic with children who have ADD or dyslexia.
Can imagine.
She was just running us through the findings in the paper they've been published. So I think there is more. And I love what you say, you opened your heart. It wasn't your mind. The scientific community tends to find the logic. They want to open their minds. And the key is open your heart and feel into it. And then you understand actually what the science of color really is.
And for me, I said, okay, I'll do this. I'll open my heart, but my head's coming. You know, my head is coming with me and I need to understand. I need to see what this means. And suddenly, you know, as I pursued it and kept reading and finding out, I thought, well, this is the science. This is the science. This is the physiology of vibration and energy. And that's what it is. And then what I realized was that when I was writing the book, that it wasn't just the physiology of color, the frequency, the eye, the flipping it over, but actually we are meaning makers by nature, as we would say in psychoanalysis. And so it's also part of that meaning making process. What does it mean for me? So in the early man, for example, in early humanity, as we come out of the nocturnal experiences and into a world of color and light, we needed to develop a color vision, and we did. It was a very rudimentary yellow-blue. But we need, if we were going to survive, we needed to adapt. And so we went on to evolve into very complex patterns of, for example, red, green. Red, green was really important because to tell the difference between the fruit and the leaf, for example, was going to be literally life-saving. And so it was the development of color vision, but also the meaning making. What keeps us safe? What leads us to our well-being? For example, blue food, blue meat. We knew not to eat it. Blue is an appetite suppressant because right from way back then, we knew if we ate it, we would compromise our well-being. And so it's about taking all of that forward.
So how do you, because you're a psychotherapist and you have a practice in Ireland, it's green therapy and it's all green. You've got lots of green walls.
Why wouldn't you?
How do you use color in a psychotherapy practice? Would you
well, there are different ways of doing it. Very often, I think a lot of the people who are listening to this would really recognize, come in, pick some bottles, pick them quickly, put them on the table, let's interchange and exchange as we go along. And that's how we do it for some folks. Other folks, it's very much more a formal psychoanalytic session, and we're talking and we're kind of delving in, and I'm reframing and asking questions, and we get stuck. And I'll say, well, go pick the color that says that and put it on the table. And there have been some amazing breakthroughs, and I'd be happy to talk about a couple of case studies that show that, if this is the time for it. Do you want me to? Yeah.
Please, I'd love to.
I'm thinking about a man who came to see me. I remember the phone rang one Thursday evening. I went, "Are you the color man?" And I went, "Well, yeah, I suppose I could be that man." And he said, I need to come and see you. And when's your next session? And I do an introductory session that is free. And then we go into block booking 6 sessions at a time after that. So he came along for his introductory session, terrified, absolutely terrified. He came in and he sat in the furthest corner of the sofa, the couch in the room, the cushion in front of him. And I said, well, this is going well, And he had been prepared that he would be asked to choose colors, which he did, and he put them on the table. And I said, what do you think? He said, I don't know. What do you think? And I thought, well, this is going really well. And normally I don't jump in and say, well, this is what it is. And I said, well, okay, let's look at the color that's on the table. And I'm going to tell you what I see, and then I'm going to ask you to respond to that. I want you to tell me about the 3 men that died and the sense of guilt that comes after that, because that's what the color said. And he said to me, did she tell you? And I said, who? He said, my sister sent me here and she said she'd kill me if I didn't come. Did she tell you about this? And I said, no, she didn't. You just told me in color on the table here. And it turned out he had been in the military here in Northern Ireland. He was late for a shift. As he arrived at his station, the armored tank that he was due to be in was pulling out of the station, and he saw it blow up and everyone killed, and he should have been in it.
Oh.
3 men were killed. 22 years later, he's sitting on the sofa going, I need to talk. He would never have walked up into my room and said, I'm here to talk about the sense of guilt in those 3 dead men. Without those bottles, that conversation would never have happened. I know now, I've had follow-up with him. He's happily in a new relationship. The house is fixed. He's sorted out things with money. He's in a really good place with himself because someone, color mirror system, gave him a voice to say what it was he was really stuck with.
I love how you put that colors give you a voice.
Yeah.
Do you find now that you use color and the color mirror system in the sessions, that this has somehow speeded up and or enhanced the results in some way, changed the way psychotherapy works for you?
Yes. I think it allows it, because the way that I see it is that there's 2 parts to the mind. There's the conscious mind that normally remembers where the car keys are. And then there's another part of the mind, the unconscious mind, where we put away those things that we've made meaning of, the things that we're stuck with, the things that we really believe about ourselves or the world around us. And to try and get access to that, Jung would have said it's really through symbols that we get access to those things. So he would have talked about dreams and slips of the tongue and various other things. Well, I see color as a cohort of symbols. that allow us to bypass the security that we put in our unconscious mind and go in there, and allows us to express through color what's unavailable to us in words. So in that way, absolutely, it takes the therapeutic session in a whole new direction. And I am forever grateful for Mostly Jolly making some bottles in the boot of her car and turning it into a worldwide product.
I remember a psychiatrist who studied with me many, many years ago, and she specialized in working with troubled teens. And well, we know they were troubled. The parents were troubled, and they send the children for therapy. But that's how it goes in the world. But she said that she found when she included the color mirror system in her sessions, she could cut down a whole year's worth of therapy in one sentence, because instantly the bottle is there, the problem's on the table, the conversation starts. She didn't have to wait a whole year to guide or get the client to open up and start talking about what the actual reason is.
And the other thing, of course, we have in the bottles, and it often doesn't get brought into the conversation. Now, I had an accident years ago. I can smell nothing, right? But these bottles smell. So very often I've been sitting with a client and we've been kind of silent and we've been quiet in the session and we've brought in color and they're not relating to the color. I often say, open the bottle and smell it. And I remember one lady in particular come to me. She'd grown up in the early 1970s in Belfast, lots of civil unrest, bombing, shooting, and she was in her adulthood with a lot of anxiety, lots of anxiety. We weren't quite able to ever to go back into the etiology, to the background of that, and quite touch what it might have been as the trigger. And I said, smell the bottle. She started to cry. Oh. And I said, oh, what is it? She said, it's Parma Violet Sweets. And I was in a shop in 1972. I bought a packet of Parma Violet Sweets. I walked out the door and I saw a man shot in front of me. Oh. And that memory has been inaccessible to me since 1972.
Oh my goodness.
Because she smelt the bottle. So there are many ways of engaging with the system, and obviously the color, but the smell can be a really strong, powerful tool as well.
Yeah. And how do you find, I mean, I don't know if you do couples therapy or, if you have two people, do you use the bottles to open a conversation between them as well?
Yes, I mean, I've had all kinds of combinations from dads and daughters when mum has died, to mum and dad and the toddler, and we're going to separate, and how do we do it well? All manner of things. And we do, the constellation work, the nearest thing I could describe would be, it's a constellation work that we make shapes and patterns and we interpret them together. And very often we might do a piece of family work where we pick a bottle for each family member and we make a constellation and we work out why they're furthest and what would bring them nearer. And it's all of that third party, almost that enablement of projection onto the bottle. Gives me another example, if you don't mind me sharing it. Lady came along, 35, Asian lady, very, very stuck in personal relationships, very controlling dad. She was now living in Ireland. She came from an Asian country. And because of their code, she couldn't come to me and talk about her parents because it was almost seen in her culture as disrespectful. So she couldn't come and say, Dad was a real control freak, Mum completely opted out. She couldn't say any of that. So what we did was we created this kind of constellation for her where the bottles represented family members. And in talking about the bottle, she was able to talk about her mother, and she was able to say things that her cultural code would not have permitted her. Wonderful lady, now married and really managing relationships. And again, without the facilitation of the bottles, we wouldn't have gotten to that place,
I have to say, one of my favorite ways of working with color mirrors is what we call the family dynamics. It's putting pick a bottle that represents a family member and place it on a chakra chart that represents the physical body. So, if they place mom near the heart, we know the relationship with mom is good. Place dad in the head, we know dad's kind of doing the heading, Near the bum, it's like, someone's giving me a kick in the wrong side of my anatomy. Yeah, so I love the way you can use the bottles to display the family dynamics and start and then to pick the bottle that says, how do we heal this? How do I bring myself and that family member closer together?
I mean, I look at complementary opposite colors. So if we're looking at something that is blue, then we're looking at yellow for healing. We're looking at whatever. So we try to look at the opposite and complementaries, because really in psychotherapy, my understanding is no one comes to my sessions broken. No one comes in a sense of something that's wrong, but actually it's a situation where things are slightly out of balance. And if we can look at balancing with color and the opposites, it so quickly gets to the core of the issue.
I love it. Oh God. Right. Let's just have a little chat here what everybody's saying. Amy Bell says, oh my, I'm tearing up with that story. How remarkable that scent as well as color can help lead us to healing. Oh, that's wonderful. Amy, by the way, I must let me just do a quick little ad break here, right?
Ooh.
The red issue, I got it, Amy. It arrived in the post. And I picked up, look here, look at this beautiful book.
Oh, beautiful.
This is Sherry Brose, who's just studied color mirrors with us. Just look at that. So we've got people, Ray, in this book from all walks of life, who are decorators, who are creatives, who are hairdressers, who are color mirrors people, who are money people, real estate people. And every 3 months, Amy puts out a color coded magazine, so that all our articles is around that specific color. So we have to incorporate. So the hairdresser has to write about redheads, right? And incredible piece of work there. So Amy, lovely, my darling. I'm so glad you're watching. Karani is on. So loving seeing you and hearing you share your experiences, dear Ray. He wasn't too flattering earlier, Karani, about you. That weird little woman, the woo-woo woman.
She had to tolerate me. She deserves a medal.
Well, she's one of my favorite people on the planet. She does. She's done so much for me as well. Just quietly held a space for me, which has been amazing. Constance is watching from the Netherlands. Debbie Prime is watching. Yeah, just checking. Yeah, all right. Everyone is really just saying that you're amazing and Color Mirrors is amazing. So
I just make it up as I go along, Moira. That's the truth.
We all kind of do, really. Ray, you're also entered politics now. So, and from what I can gather from our pre-show chat, you've kind of pulled color into that arena.
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
I don't know how to do it, so I make it up. So I use what I've got. I mean, before going into politics 2 years ago, I'd never been in a political party, never been in a political chamber, had no idea what the protocols were, no idea how it worked, but I felt compelled. I felt compelled to be the light that I talked about. I felt compelled to be that change that I talked about. So I thought at first, yeah, we need independence in politics outside politics. So I tried to persuade all my friends to do it, and they all kept saying no. And then I thought, well, I'm going to have to be that person. And taking it step by step, we started knocking doors. We had real protocols that we would never criticize anyone else, that this was going to be kindness politics, that our main focus was going to be well-being, and that we were going to have conversations on the doorstep with people. And it worked. People went, yeah, actually, we're tired of the right and wrong and fear politics. We want something that is about us and our well-being, that speaks a language of kindness. And I got elected. Nobody more shocked in the world than me, standing at that electoral hall going, I'm in. Okay, what do I do next? And so I thought, well, since I don't know what to do, I'll use the tools that I have to do this new task. And so what did I have? I had psychotherapy, I had color, I had the ability to talk a lot. So I thought I'll use all of those things and I'll do this. And so that's what's happened. So, there's a whole spectrum, Moira. It's not all, high flying. It can be about somebody's missing bin or a tree that fell down in the park. But then, unfortunately, living in Northern Ireland and still some quite uncertain times, it can be about the very hard end of politics. And it can be about the threat to communities from paramilitary terrorism. And so I thought to myself, well, what do I do when they're threatening my community? And I thought, well, I'll pick up the telephone and I'll ring them. They must have a telephone. So I ring them and what I think is, rather than trying to come in with the red, as we were saying, and the strategy and the principles and the force, let's come in with the pink. And let's try to build relationship with these people and make them laugh and get to understand them. And it works. So I mean, our colors tonight are perfect for looking at racial conflict and terrorism conflict, because, you know, so often we do it in the red. Let's move to the pink. Let's appeal to our emotions and our sense of creativity and our sense of compassion. And that's what I'm doing at the present time.
And what's interesting is Melissa always said, when we start a meditation and you bring a bunch of people into a room and they don't know each other, and the first thing you say to them is, oh, close your eyes, we're going to do a meditation. It's quite threatening to human nature, you know, because you're vulnerable if your eyes aren't open to see what's going on around you. And she always said to us, spray the pink angel, because it relaxes everybody, it unifies everybody, brings everybody together, so that, you know, that all that outside fears and separation and anxiety around, you know, who am I with and what can they do to me while my eyes are closed, goes away. So, you know, I love that with all meditations. Melissa's always said, spray the pink angel. And even when clients come in, I always spray pink angel first, and it changes the energy in the room.
And as you're saying about closing eyes in meditation, sometimes that isn't the language that I need in the political chamber, but I need the intention that lies behind it. So very often, you know, something simple like sitting in a political chamber before the debate begins, just ho'oponopono everybody in the room and send that energy round and round in the room, and get up on your feet and be careful, even when you disagree, to speak with the language of kindness. You know, to kind of see their color energy, to respond to that. And, you know, it's called making it up as you go along. When you don't really know what you're doing, use what you've got. So I use color in psychotherapy and politics. But
now, you have got a little psychic gift. Now, we could call it psychic gift.
But I think it's science, you see.
All right. And I have permission, by the way, to talk about this.
You do.
You can see people's colors around them.
Yeah, but, you know, it's science. I mean, you know, my heart is a bit dodgy, but it has a frequency it beats with. My kidney has a frequency it beats with. So collectively, I have an energy that I beat with, and a frequency is, you know, color is no more than a shape of a frequency. So we all have a frequency. You know, we've seen the photographs of it and all. We kind of know that it happens. So if you just trust yourself that you don't need to worry about looking like an idiot, you know, and just say, you know, that you can see that energy, you can relate to that energy. When you come on screen today, I went, oh my word, look, you know, Silver. And I kind of thought, well, look, I just thought it was science and everybody could do it. But yes, it's really helpful, actually, you know, whether it's politics or therapy, to be able to see that, you know.
Able to see people's colors, yeah. So you want to have a go at mine? I'm going to sit still.
Well, you know, if you don't mind me saying so, you know, I thought, oh, look at you, right? Okay, Silver. Melissa and I worked on a little kind of scheme for a while on ancient Irish spirituality, and we made a lovely little set of bottles about the symbols of Irish mythology, and one of them was St. Bridget, and St. Bridget was silver over emerald green. And so when I think of the silver, I think of Bridget being that bridge maker, that she was between two worlds. She could be dealing with poverty and an illness, and yet she could be on one foot on the other side of that bridge, where it was about real deep spiritual meaning making in life. And so I see silver as kind of a color that's about somebody who can bridge both worlds. Now, the other side of that, when people often say to me, is there a bad color? No, there's not. Of course, there's not. But it's like a personality trait. There's one side that's positive and constructive, and there's the other side that's the challenge. The other side of silver, the other challenge is sometimes feeling that sense of, whom do I belong to? You know, what am I a part of? How do I connect to that? So that's the other side of the silver. And yet the other positive, creative side of the silver is the foot in both worlds. I can be an accomplished businesswoman, and yet I can be a spiritual meaning maker. And so that's how I see silver. I'm sure loads of people listening to this go, really? I thought silver was something else, but that's just how I see it.
Well, I mean, it ties into what I felt I've been drawn to doing the last few years, and which is bridging the business world and entrepreneurs who want to be more soul connected to the language of color and the spirituality of color. So I've always done this business and spiritual bridge. And that's been a theme in my life. And then even within the spiritual community, the bridge that I've been working on has been the shadow deck that I've created. So,
yeah.
you know, bridging light and dark, bridging how do we work with ourselves in the light and how do we work with ourselves in the dark. So, you know, but I wanted to create a tool to help people. So I created this little black box full of shadow cards. I don't know if, did you know I'd done this?
Yes, no, I've been following your work. I've seen
Oh,
this.
you have, yeah. And I was just going to see what the silver cards are.
Yeah.
Let me have a look here because they are where's my silver cards? Hang on, here we go. So we've got pale silver and silver, which is Joker and time.
Yes.
So the Joker silver is about how you misappropriately use jokes and humor, and it masks what your shadow uses it to say, oh, look, on the outside this is a joke, but underneath it's a shadow attack. It's a kind of a frustration you have with somebody and you can't verbalize it, so you mask it in humor. So that's one of the shadow cards. And then the other one is time. You know how we use that poverty time thing. I don't have enough time and I don't have enough hours in the day. And you know, just and again, it's shadow's way of keeping us away from things that really should be getting our attention.
Yeah. And of course, the whole time debate has been blown out of the water with COVID, because we always said, I don't have the time for this. I don't have the time for this. And then when we got all the time in the world to stay at home, we didn't do it anyway. So it was always a deflection, really, rather than looking at the real issue.
That's right. Yeah. So when you just in your normal life, just at home, and your family comes to visit for you, and you have a vast family, beautiful family, good looking family too. I've checked those photos on Facebook. When they come to you and they know you as dad and they know you as granddad and they kind of know you as the therapist and now the politician, and you can see all their colors around them, do you engage them in conversations around that?
One of the things that you have to be really careful about is switching off, you know, for your own well-being. And I would say that to all of the kind of the folks that are listening, you know, that there has to be a time where you don't pay attention to things, so that's for your own well-being, but also too in the dynamic between what essentially, even in that informal sense, would be the therapist and the client, is that you never go where you're not invited.
Yes.
And so you have to create that space for when you're invited. Now, I might end up having a conversation on WhatsApp with my daughter about something that was evident in the color, but I'm not going to say that. And so, you know, my children are made up of kind of believers and unbelievers when it would come to this. So, and also to humor, you know, sometimes they might go, oh yeah, Dad, I don't know about that, that was green. And I'm just playing along with the humor, you know, I'm not taking yourself too seriously, you know, I'm not very good at taking myself seriously. Maybe I should go to classes or something.
Right. We're in really strange times. I mean, literally 2020 was this awakening energy. Color Mirrors predicted it. The bottle 20 in Color Mirrors was a bottle called Awakening. And 2021, we've got this, the bottle in Color Mirrors is the key. It's yellow and gold. So it's about being given a key. And I know when I tuned into the predictions for 2021, I found that everybody who's in a specific year number numerology, it's based on your date of birth, and you add your day, your month, and add it to the 2021. You have a specific key that is important for you that year. That is almost a symbolic sign to say, go for it. Like, for example, somebody in a 5-year, they having a key to adventure. So they, you know, if anybody is in a 5 green year, this is about, you know, exploring how to be more adventurous with your life, your decisions. And I think that, you know, so there's this map that I created with the predictions, and there's these symbols that we can use, combining color mirrors, astrology, and numerology for people to say, this is what's coming up in the year for you. And, you know, this is a potential map. But I don't think anybody was, I mean, even though we said that it's going to be awakening and that things are going to have this huge, big change, I don't think anybody was quite prepared for just how deep it was going to go. So what is your sense of this? How long do you think this is going to carry on?
Here's what I think. I don't know stuff. I'm telling you, I'm forever ringing Melissa going, what's happening exactly this month with the energy? There's something weird's happening. I ring Karani or we text and I go, oh, this is weird. What's happening? And I would say, frankly, I'm speaking from a scientific point of view, that the critical mass point in terms of changing in how we saw the world around us in terms of light or darkness, moving into the light. I'd say it happened about the beginning of 2 years ago, the beginning of the year. And so what has happened in my humble perspective is that what we're seeing now isn't the change or the transformation, but it's the working out of it in the 3D dimensions around us, like banks, organizations, governments, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we're seeing is them creaking and changing out of their old way into new. So when the pandemic came in, and lots of people, I don't know the word for it, but I called them spiritual people. And I saw them, the posts going, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, really? What are we afraid of? This is what we've been asking for forever and a day, that the world transforms. So this is just the creaky bit of it, where the organizations and the systems get up to speed with the light change that has already happened on the planet. So actually nothing big's happening. We're not going down any rabbit hole. We're going to the place that we've asked for, call it the new world, call it enlightenment, call it whatever word you need for it. But I think that's where we're going. And this is just the creaky bit, where the organizations are catching up with the light bit. And we're going to come out the other side of this, and we're going to be in a whole new place. That's my humble view.
And I love your name, analogy, creaky bits, because we got oil, color mirrors, oil too.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah. I mean, when I first met Melissa, I said, one of the things that I think has happened is that we've all agreed to be here right now on this planet at this time, because this system is the language that we will need to understand and interpret transformation when it comes.
Yeah.
Because it will be beyond our words, it'll be beyond our understanding, it'll be beyond our experience, and we will be lost for words. So way back, Melissa and I, God knows what we were doing, we and a bunch of other people, you and loads of others, we said, we're going to show up for the big change. And Melissa said, I'll hold on to this big system, will be the language we will use to navigate the big change. And that's exactly what's happening right now, in my humble view.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you. I've had the sense of how, color mirrors arrived at the time it did in 2003, and how everybody that's been involved, and whether it's from the beginning or somewhere midway or somewhere recently, has a role to play to amplify this now and make it accessible. And of course, technology is helping too. It's strange because, 10 years ago, the people I used to speak to and say, come on, get in front of a camera, do a conference call, do a webinar, do a video. Nobody would do it. Facebook Lives came and went, and most people just kind of, that were in the therapeutic world kind of didn't pay attention. 2020 forced you to get in front of the camera if you wanted to stay connected to people and keep a business going and help people. And so I think that has been a big breakthrough for the therapy community, is showing that technology can transmit energy. You can have a conversation and healing. Yeah. And I was halfway through a practitioner program, and I had these incredible women in Canada at a meeting here at my home, and the lockdown came, and the one neighbor reported, one of the husbands came to pick up one of the ladies and reported them to the police, and the police came and said, you've got to move away in Cloudabia, you've got to go home. So I was forced to take the course halfway through online. And I was like, oh, I don't like to teach online. I want to connect with people. I want them in the room with me. And I used to travel all over the world to connect with people in their rooms. And I had to go through a major transformation and do it online. And I'm so glad I did, because now I'm just working with everybody all over the world. And look at this. I would never have had a show chatting with you in Ireland.
But this transformation has pushed us all into our creaky bits and out the other side, because all of those things that we thought weren't possible, that we couldn't do, that place we were stuck in, Karani and let's say we're talking about the 3 dimensions, being stuck in that density of all of that. Well, you know what? Right, it's happened. The change has happened. The equilibrium has changed on the planet. Are you coming? That's the question,
Yeah.
Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong with COVID, and I say that respectfully, because a lot of people have lost lives. A lot of people have been ill. We lost a very, very dear friend to it. But in the terms of this conversation and this context, those who are kind of one eye at least on the light and the changing dynamic in the world, in that context, nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong.
This is the change you asked for. So come along, come along, off we go. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. I love chatting with you. I'm going to pop over to back to our slides. I just want to share with our community here what else is happening in the Color Mirrors community. So if you do want to connect to Color Mirrors, we've got some upcoming events and training happening. And first of all, I've got the brand new, well, I've done one now. I'm on my second round of doing the once a year, I do a color practitioner program, doing them online. 25 weeks, Ray, where I sit with a community for 25 weeks and we work through the color mirror system, one color at a time. An incredible, intensive, life-changing program. And I have open bookings for the next one that starts on the 29th of September. And these are in person. So you actually come on a Zoom class with me, and then there are homework sessions as well. And for those of you who are students on my academy, this is your gentle reminder, because I always get a couple of days before, when is we getting our free class? So here it is. So this coming Wednesday, 21st of April, I do a free bonus class to anybody who's a student on my academy. We are going to look at this particular class at the golden keys. What is it that you were supposed to have activated in January, or you had the opportunity to activate and you didn't, and we're going to just revise that. And then please also remember that Amy has got her webinar happening on the 22nd of April. Amy, if you're still watching, please pop your booking link in. And this is an introduction from Amy on color and numerology and the color mirror system. And if you don't know how to get a hold of Amy on Facebook, there is her website. You can get hold of her through unitedcolorofdesignmag.com. And then Karani is doing a current Earth series webinar. And if you have not connected with Karani, she was Ray's first woo-woo teacher. And she's doing this series of connecting to various colors and just focusing on a few of the colors and deepening your connection to the earth. They really are. She's an extraordinary teacher. Please go to karani.net. If you missed the class, don't worry. She's got recordings that you can purchase from her as well. They really just a nominal amount of investment as well. Then we've got a color and astrology workshop coming up. I'm actually attending this one. I'm hoping a couple of you are going to join me as well. Amanda is our resident astrologer. She knows everything about astrology, and she's connected astrology with the color mirror system right in the beginning. She was one of the first people with Karani and myself who really worked with the color mirror system with Melissa. So the dates are, they are 3 2-hour workshops. They're going to happen over a period of 3 months. So the 21st of April starting this week, 19th of May, 23rd of June, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. GMT. And of course, for those of you who are going to join me here in Toronto, Canada, it's 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Get the details from Amanda via email, please. There is her email address, amanda@amandabradbury.com. I'm doing this workshop. Please join me. It's very exciting. She's going to, I think there's only a couple of places open because Amanda's actually going to do your natal chart. The day you were born, you have to give the day you were born, the time you were born if you have it, and the nearest biggest town that you were born with, and she will do your natal chart. It's going to be very, very personal, deep connection to color astrology and the day you were born. And then please next week, I mean, look at this lovely lady. Isn't she gorgeous?
She's
Catherine.
wonderful. I love this woman. She is just a joy.
It is an absolute joy. We're going to be talking about turquoise. Her and I both are turquoise in our birth colors. She's an actor, producer, writer. She's been in film, media. I mean, she just has a resume that is just absolutely huge. But she's been a godsend to Color Mirror. She's been been helping Melissa get really organized with systems in this. I think when you're a creative person, the last thing you're going to be worried about is, the nuts and bolts of things. And Catherine has really stepped in and helped Melissa and the Color Mirrors company. And we're deeply, deeply, deeply grateful to her for that. So I wonder if you've all picked your 1, 2s and 3s. Which one were you drawn to, Ray? 1, 2, or 3?
3.
3. Okay. Let's go and have a look, and let's give our viewers let's go to advanced camera and let's share. There we go. All right. So you're 3. I chose 1. So let's flip over. So those of you who chose number 1, you've got the royal blue dragon, indigo adult. So this is indigo. So if we look this in the context of the week coming up, those who pick number 1, what do you think they can expect with the color indigo?
Well, if I can tell a really brief story, I'm an absolute atheist, by the way, so there's no God in my framework, but there's a lovely story, an African story of a lady sitting in the bush by a fire, baby dying in her arms, the fire's going out, and she looks at this massive indigo sky, and she said, God, my baby's dying, help me. And she looks down and the baby has died. But she also sees that her legs are indigo because of the baby's urine, the plant that she's sitting on the ash from the fire. And she looks back at the sky and she said, it's okay. I have my own near sky. And the idea that sometimes we're always looking outside ourselves for the answer. And sometimes it's always right under our nose. And so that's what reminds me of indigo.
Yeah, so that's your message. Number one is the solution to your problems is right under your nose.
Oh, absolutely. You've got all you need.
You've got it. You don't look outside, it's already there. Yeah. And those that chose number 2, gold dragon, another dragon. I shuffled these randomly, so this is just how it worked. Move mountains, gold for people in number 2, Ray.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen?
Enough. People are always that issue of enough. It comes up in therapy week in, week out. I am not enough. I do not have enough. I do not know enough. When I know enough, I'll do it. And really coming home to look at our own completion, that there was never anything broken and there was never anything wrong. You know, particularly with money, it comes up, not enough. Can't do this because of the money. Can't do that because of the money. If there was only enough money. And it really brings us into the enough conversation. We are enough.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that. So please, my darlings, those of you in week 2, you have enough. And maybe tap into being grateful for what's already there, and that will grow. And yeah, you are so valued. And I think just one of the things Melissa taught me, Ray, about value and enough was just the fact that you're born.
Yeah.
You've made it to the planet. That's enough. Start.
And when does the river ever ask if it's enough?
Yeah.
You know, when does the sun ever ask if it's enough? Well, where did we get this from? We weren't born asking about enough.
Yeah.
It came from somewhere, and we can resolve that.
Well, here goes your card, number 3.
Hello?
Oh, here we go. Gold, angel, expansion, and visibility. Oh, another gold one.
Wow. And the story I began with when my friend said to me, you know that thing you do when people mention angels? Don't do it tomorrow. Well, there we go. We got an angel. It had to be.
Sorry, Ray. Well, I would feel that for people in the 3 week is, even if you don't believe in angels or you're a little bit skeptical about them, is just know that sometimes they're going to drop a message in and they're going to give you a message of support this week. I really feel that there is just this, if you've been thinking about how can I serve more, how can I be more useful, or how can I work in a way that fulfills me and my soul's purpose on the planet, I think the angels can definitely help you answer that and kind of give you a couple of signposts. So be on the lookout for messages.
I agree. And I would say that last point is absolutely it. Whether for me it's psychotherapy or politics, to look out for the angels. Because in the middle of civil unrest, there'll be an angel. In the middle of a political debate you don't understand, there'll be an angel. In the middle of personal crisis, there'll be an angel.
Yeah.
And really, what you pay attention to will shape your life.
Yeah. I remember when this black box deck thing came at me, and I was, the space I was in, it was an angel. It was Archangel Gabriel. And he's the messenger of God. And he appears to me in clouds. He always comes in the most beautiful shaped cloud with a long, big trumpet that it looks like it's photoshopped. It's so perfectly formed, these clouds. And every single time that I'm doubtful about a message or bringing a new project, into fruition, or birthing something different, or he just pops up into the sky.
And it comes to us as we need it. For me, Archangel Michael is a great, big, gorgeous, muscly looking man, because that's what I like. So we get what we relate to. It projects out of us to what we need. We can deal with it in that third party. We see it as an energy source, and it can influence our lives. So it comes to us all differently, and I love that,
Yeah, and and again, if you think about symbolism, you spoke about Jungian symbolism. If you just look at the symbolisms around you, all the answers to everything that you need to know or be or asking guidance for, it's already there.
Yeah.
It
And
turns
color is that cohort of symbols. That's my approach to this. Is a cohort of symbols that allows us to access the unconscious, to release all of that stuff, to understand ourselves, to come home to ourselves. And without that language of color, the process, as you intimated earlier, is a longer process. It's a more challenging process. And this gift allows us to understand ourselves completely. And I'm very grateful for all of you in your part in it.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. What a beautiful way to end our show today. And huge gratitude to you, Melissa, and all the team of Color Mirrors family out there who help to take this energy and this teachings out into the world. And Ray, thank you so much for being so special today. I hope you're going to come back.
Oh, yeah.
I don't wait till after live to say, would you like to come back? I'll put you on the spot. Come back and let's talk some more.
Count me in. Count me in. And maybe nobody wants me to come back. Maybe all those listeners will go get rid of the Irishman. But, you know, if I'm allowed back, I'll come.
Oh, fabulous. We'd love to have you back. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week, everybody. We love you. And see you next week with Catherine Louise Jones.